Hey everyone, we're going to dive right in on our new social studies unit about conflicts that shaped a nation. Please have this booklet with you and also have your packet with you. We are going to be doing page 1 of the packet. We're going to be doing the first 3 things on your checklist. You might notice this checklist looks a little different than yours. I added some things to make it more helpful, and I uploaded this on this post also so that you can get some more help from the checklist. First thing we're going to do is preview the text. So we've done this before. We're going to look at the pictures. In this case, there's a lot of timeline. There's this big timeline on this page and on the next page. And we're also going to look at the title and the subtitles. So the title is Road to Revolution. What revolution could they be talking about? We're going to scroll down to here and look at this timeline. What's the title of it? The American Revolution. What was the American Revolution? So that's one clue. And then we can look at our first sentence for another clue. For 150 years, oh, he's talking to me. Great Britain's 13 American colonies had had time to grow and change. So these American colonies belonged to Great Britain. As you might remember from our 13 colonies unit, a lot of people came from England over to the colonies to live there. They came from other places too, but especially from England. And I looked at this with the Teletubbies, but not with Team Umizoomi yet. Here you can see that along the East Coast are the British colonies, where the 13 colonies are. But there were other European countries that came to America and grabbed up land and said, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And as we've talked about, there were indigenous people, Native Americans living here for thousands of years before Europeans ever came here. But this kind of shows you what we were talking about. In Team Umizoomi, we talked about this. We just didn't look at the map yet. And you guys had a lot of prior knowledge about Spain coming and taking some land, France, etc. So what we're focusing on right now is that the British colonies are here. Now, British and we can use these two terms about the same. Great Britain is about the same thing at this time, especially as England. They just get called different things. And today they mean something different. But so I put that as an annotation in my text where it said Great Britain. I put England to help me connect and remember. Country in Europe that came and claimed this land as theirs. So we know that this is going to be a conflict, a revolution from America against Great Britain. America was getting tired of having Great Britain being in charge of them, and they wanted to kick them out. So we're going to see what the road to revolution was, the path that led to this revolution happening. What were the events that led to this revolution? You can see here's the timeline. What are the different things that happened? So I want you to now pause the video, really do it. And what you're going to do when you pause is you're going to annotate the titles, the subtitles, I mean, the headings, and annotate the pictures. Okay, ready? Pause. Okay, good. Now we're back. I want to see, if you didn't pause yet, pause it now. Okay. Now, if you really have major annotations, let's review. Let's talk about some. So I annotated down here on these pictures in the timeline. I saw that in this little picture, it said tax on tea. So I'm wondering, what was the tax? Why was there a tax on tea? And my inference is that Britain was taxing America. Here it says Britain passes the Townshend Acts. you put duties on important products such as tea. If I don't know what the word duties means in this context, you can circle it. But based on this picture saying there's a tax on tea, we can infer it means they're collecting money. They're collecting taxes, duties from the tea. All right, then there's this picture where people are dumping boxes of something into the water from this ship. And we can look up here to see that they're dumping tea. So maybe this connects to the tax that was happening over that we learned about here. Also, I hope you made some connections. Maybe made a connection. This boat looks a lot like the boats that we drew, the ships that we drew when we were drawing the 13 colonies. This is that same time period, and the ships looked really similar. You also may have made some annotations about the text, or about the headings. So we have anger builds. So we know there was anger, there was tension that was building between America and Great Britain. Because remember, at this time, it's just American colonies. I'm saying America, it's just the American colonies. They weren't a country. They were not the United States of America yet. They are part of Great Britain. And that's what they wanted to change. They didn't want to be part of Great Britain anymore. They didn't want to be bossed around by Britain. They wanted their own government. And in the text, you'll learn a little bit about why. The other headings on pages 8 and 9 are to fight or not. So deciding how they're going to fight for their independence, for their freedom, and then declaring independence. So what were the steps? How did they actually declare that they were independent, that they were separated and free from Britain? Okay, check off box number 1. We have previewed and annotated. We've previewed the text by annotating all those things. Now you're going to read and annotate the actual text. Take your time and make sure to include some power annotations where you write questions or comments. Here is a reminder of what your annotations need to include. I want, not just a bunch of underlines. I want a little bit of all these things. Circling new or confusing words. There's some very confusing words in this. On pages 8 and 9, there's primary sources, letters people wrote at the time. There's a lot of hard words in there. Please circle the new or confusing ones. There's also a really weird spelling of a word that we use all the time, but they spelled it super weird. So please make sure to circle that and we can talk about it. Also, underlining key details. What are the key details? What did lead to the revolution? Connections you have about the text and questions you have about the text. I want one connection or question per page if you are about the text. Okay, so now you're going to pause the video and make those, read the text and do the annotations. Pause it really now. Pause. Okay, now we're going to discuss. I had some annotations. Did you find the really weird word on pages 8 and 9? Here it is. I hope you found this. And another student pointed this out to me in office hours. Here it is, that no man should scruple. Why didn't they just put the L? Why did they put an apostrophe? Something should be done. I think there's another one too. Oh, here. Would. This is old-fashioned English. And this is one mystery I do not have an answer to yet. I will try to find one. It's very interesting. So those could have been some annotations. Also, now, you're going to use the annotations you made to do this page in your booklet. For example, we're going to do the introduction one together. It doesn't say introduction, but it's the first part. So it is the introduction. I noticed one key idea that we talked about, that we're talking about Great Britain and the 13 colonies. And they were, yeah. And then this is an interesting thing. It said 3 different ways that the colonists thought about themselves. They still thought of themselves as British citizens. Number 1, we can do numbers while we annotate too, but they also consider themselves part of their colony, whether it was Virginia or New York, etc. They felt they belonged to Britain, to England that was in charge of them. They belonged to their colony, and they also felt like they belonged to this idea of being part of these, as being an American, being part of these colonies. So those are 3 key ideas, or those are some key details. Another one here is this vocab word, resource. Resource. Britain had mostly left them alone, but saw them as an economic resource. Let's see what kind of resources America was providing to Britain. They were providing sugar and tobacco. And they helped Britain out by buying British goods, but they got to govern themselves. So my key ideas that I put were that the colonists had mixed identities. Colonists had mixed identities as British, as part of their colony, and as American. And I had as another main idea that, and this really did fit in my box, I'm just typing it for you because this is backwards and small. British used colonies for resources, tobacco and sugar, but let them govern themselves. Govern themselves. Govern, it's part of government, means they got to have their own government. Britain wasn't very involved. But then something changed. And that's what you're going to read about. So you can pause this if you want to copy this down. I'm going to keep going. Oh, wait, first I'm going to write this as a main idea. Then something changed, which is what we're going to learn about in anger builds. Okay, main idea. Let's say colonists were connected to Britain mostly through trade, buying and selling stuff. Okay, that could be a main idea. Of this, and had their own government. Ooh, that's weird. Okay. Great. Now pause that if you want to do that, and copy that down, and I'm going to flip back over to the text. You're going to see that anger is building. So a conflict happened and things weren't so happy anymore between the American colonies and the British government. What happened? And then you're going to see on the next 2 pages the way that 2 different people thought that the conflict should be resolved. George Washington and Patrick Henry. Now, I can go over this in more detail in another video, because this is going to help you do the next, it's going to help you do this checkbox here. answering these questions in your notebook. And then I added this optional checkbox about watching this BrainPOP video. It is in Spanish and it is in English, and it has a good background about this that might help you. Okay, so best of luck. Let me know if you want that video about how to answer those questions, and also let me know if there's any other video you would like me to make. Take good care of yourselves and talk to you soon. Bye.